What's going on? It's the RapNerd, and I am here today to talk about Kendrick's sixth album that he dropped over the weekend called GNX. Now, this is coming off of the heels of his defeat of Drake in one of the biggest rap battles, hell, arguably the biggest rap battle in rap history. And honestly, I really enjoyed this album. This is like a Kendrick Lamar / West Coast victory lap for what happened earlier. And I honestly don't know if this album was always in the works or it kind of was just the circumstances of the year, because Kendrick has done so much this year, right? For 2024, had all of these accolades and award nominations. And one of the things that people kept saying is, but he don't have an album out. And this right here answers that. So this album to me is the project that definitively hands Kendrick the crown as king of 2024. So circling back to the victory lap theory is part of what I enjoy so much about this project, and it's something that I've been asking for Kendrick to do. This is a very easy listen, it's not as streamlined in concept as his other records are. And that's not to say that this is an album full of loosies that don't have any type of connection, but all of his albums prior, they all are sequenced in a format kind of like film, where yes, you can pick different parts, but when you put it all together in context, it's just a better body of work. And all of his albums have been like that, whether it be skits at the beginning or end of records that kind of melt into each other to marry all of the songs together, or there's some type of string line dialogue or sound throughout the entire album. But here it's very, very loose. The last time he did this was Untitled, but this actually takes me back to Overly Dedicated, when he just had a project with songs that were connected to the title in some direct and indirect ways. And that's why I like it so much, because again, here you can pick out songs just to play. Like, you can make a playlist out of these records without having to hear the entire album. And granted, you could do that with a lot of songs too. Not saying you can't, but here it's more pronounced because of the lack of streamlined connection from like one song to the next. And that's not to say that there's no density, complexity, or overall theme to the album, because if you go digging, you can definitely find a whole lot. Especially the biggest theory here is this is Kendrick's version of Machiavelli. And you can make those connections in a number of different ways, because I feel like that's pretty obvious on the surface with a lot of different things that he does in the album, from the type of beats to the tracks, even to the working titles. It all can sink in with that album. Especially when you hear Reincarnated, I feel like that's the biggest giveaway as to what he's doing with the album. Because as soon as I heard that record, I was like, oh yeah, he's doing Tupac's voice here, which in a way is a response to Tailor Made, because he's doing it how it should have been done from that standpoint. First of all, every single West Coast banger on here, I love. And every time one of the joints comes on, I'm just in here dancing and doing my own bop to it, because I really enjoy hearing Kendrick rap over these type of beats. And I was hoping that he was gonna go with that sound as soon as Not Like Us dropped, because I was like, damn, I don't think I've ever heard Kendrick be this West Coast sonically. Obviously he is born and raised with the West Coast, and you get that energy from him just from the way he talks, the slang he uses, how he dresses and carries himself. He's 100% a West Coast guy. But if we're talking about music specifically and the type of production he uses, I wouldn't say it's traditionally West Coast, but here, no confusion, because every single joint is on some West Coast type shit in some way or another. And the bangers are the updated version of what the West Coast is. And then he also has music that taps into like the 90s West Coast, like the first record, Whacked Out My Mural, Reincarnated, which is a sample on its own, and even that G-Funk type joint, The Heart Part 6, it seems like something that a Cube would have rapped on, and has a similar vibe to Today Is a Good Day. So there are a lot of different pieces that he's pulling from in regards to the West Coast sound, and this is easily his most West Coast sound, and part of the reason why I feel like he named it GNX. In one of the bars, he even says, all I ever wanted was a Grand National Regal. And this album, to me, is taking us back to those roots of who Kendrick is, doubling down on where he came from, how he grew up, in a less poetic way than how he has expressed it, like on something like Good Kid, Mad City, because that album was more so him being surrounded by all of this stuff and not really wanting to be. But growing up around it, he has this other side of this album where it's like a group around it, and I kind of was into the same type of things, even though I was trying to find my way out. And this is his expression of that. And I feel like it even goes into the album cover with him being in a white room and a car behind him, which you can see on many different albums, specifically the Carter 3. And I believe there's a Hove album. I think it's not Hard Knock Life. It's one of those Hove albums where he's standing by a car. And you can go down the line and just see where the homage is being paid. But I do find irony that it's similar to Carter 3, and he mentions that on the first track, saying, I used to bump Carter 3, but I guess my hard work let Lil Wayne down. If you know anything about Kendrick, nothing he does is by mistake, so that clearly is also reference to that. So I've already kind of did a video on Whacked Out Murals when I talked about Lil Wayne versus Kendrick, but just to get into the track a little bit more, I can definitely tell that Kendrick has a bone to pick, which brings me back to what I said earlier, is I wonder how planned out this album was, because there are a lot of tracks on here that address a lot of recent stuff that he's talking about. I mean, just the fact that he spoke about Lil Wayne in a Super Bowl says that he just wrote this and recorded this. So I wonder if this was always down the pipeline, or he was already in a groove and just kind of fell into it. So my two favorite joints, first of all, is Squabble Up. I have loved that joint since he teased it in the Not Like Us video. So to have the whole record, I really, really dig it, especially the sample comes into play from that Debbie Dab joint. But my number one is TV Off. I absolutely love this song. Mustard went crazy. Kendrick, as he has done his whole album, is riding that West Coast vibe. And when the beat switches over and those horns come in, it reminds me of that J-Rock joint. Win, 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 win. It has that same type of energy. And then with Kendrick yelling mustard like he does, like, this is going to go off at the Super Bowl. He is 100% performing this record, and the crowd is going to go nuts. And I even love that he left Not Like Us off the album. And, you know, he easily could have done that to help boost streams, but this is proof in the pudding that, like, I don't need that record to, like, do anything. Like, I'm me. I'm about to give you more bops that are gonna outdo that one. So this is Kendrick really put his foot down as the king of 2024 hip hop. And that song, he's just going off, especially that verse when it switches up, when he says, nothing but my children, one shot they disappearing. I'm in a city where flags get thrown like a pass interference. I thought that part was really mean. Crash pulling up in unmarked trucks just to play freeze tag with a bone to pick like it was sea bass. I'm prophetic. They only talk about how I get it. Only good for saving face, I seen the cosmetics. How many heads I gotta take to level my aesthetic? Hurry up and get your muscle up, we oughta doing plyometrics. Like, you know anything about me when it comes to hip hop, I love bars, and that song provided me a lot, so easily my favorite joint on the album. And I really like Heart Part 6 being, again, just him being upfront with storytelling about his come up with TDE and how he got here, especially over that smooth SWV sample. I'm telling you, I just ride out to that, and it takes me places just listening to what he's saying. I love that storytelling. Another song I like is Man at the Garden as well, and that's 100% a flip on one mic with the beat pattern in the back, which I thought was dope, because he said that Nas was the only one to congratulate him, and the fact that he took that song and used it in his own way, telling people, like, I deserve it, bruh. I didn't work my ass off to get here, as a response to the backlash with Lil Wayne not being picked. And Dodger Blue is yet another one that has that G-funk to it. Love that hook. Even though, you know, Kendrick isn't rapping, it's another joint that you just can vibe out to. Those are really my favorite tracks, and the whole album rides. I've listened to it every single day. So those are my favorite tracks off of GNX, and I really love this project. I enjoy the smooth listen it provides. I love the vibe of it. I'm surprised he didn't want to drop this during summer, because it has a lot of summer-esque type things, but with this being Kendrick, these songs are gonna keep living on past the Super Bowl and even into spring. So I'm just happy to have gotten my wish answered with getting an album like this from K-Dot, and this is one of my favorites of the year. So let me know in the comments, what do you think about GNX? What did you take away from the album as a whole, and what's your favorite track? And as usual, if you like this kind of content, make sure you like and subscribe. If you already are subscribed, thank you. Until next time, peace. RapNerd Productions, no capping, that's word to mommy. Instead of banking on it, now rapping is just a hobby.